Well, we are just 4 days away from the US presidential polls, and let's now tell you what is the Electoral College in US presidential polls. Well, it does sound like a complicated concept, but my colleague Dharamjot Kaur simplifies it for you. Take a look.
The US election process is anything but simple. But today we focus on the biggest factor that determines who wins the presidential race: electoral colleges. In each presidential election, you hear a candidate needs to reach the 270 majority mark to win the election. But what is this number and how is it obtained? Now, these reflect the number of electoral votes needed to cement a victory. You see, there are a total of 538 electoral votes divided among 50 states, and a candidate needs just over half to win. That brings you to the magic number of 270. But how are these electoral votes cast? Let's take a step back. When voters in America cast their ballot, they see the names of the presidential and vice presidential candidates on the ballot paper. But in reality, voters are actually casting their ballot for a group that represents their mandate. These people are called the electors. These voter representatives or electors then go and cast their official vote on the basis of how the state has voted. The Electoral College follows a winner-takes-all approach in 48 of the 50 states. This means that the candidate that wins the most number of votes in the state gets all of its electoral votes. It doesn't matter if the candidate won with 20 votes or 20,000. So how are the number of electoral votes per state determined? It's simple math. Each state has as many electors as it has representatives and senators in the Congress. There are 2 senators for each state, but the allocation of seats in the House of Representatives varies based on the population size. Let's take an example of California, the largest state in the United States. It has 2 senators and 52 lawmakers in the House of Representatives. This gives it a total of 54 electors. Another example, Georgia. The state has 2 senators and 14 representatives in the Congress. Hence, its total number of electors is 16. But just to clarify, the senators and House of Representatives are not the electors themselves. There are separate people for that job. The group of presidential electors is formed every 4 years during the election. They are chosen for the sole purpose of voting for the president and vice president. This year, November 5 is the main election day, and the electors will meet on December 17 to cast the final official vote. The gap between November 5 voting and the date electors cast the vote gives plenty of time for election officials to deal with all kinds of possible scenarios, be it assessing provisional ballots or counting ballots that arrive late. Now, you might be wondering, can a candidate who got more votes nationally lose the election? The answer is yes, and it has happened before. In 2016, Hillary Clinton was contesting against Donald Trump. Overall, more voters cast their ballot for Clinton, but it was the Republican candidate Donald Trump who got more electoral votes based on the result of each state. And that is how he won the election back then. The electors are expected to represent the voters' choice in each state, and that is what usually happens. However, there have been some instances in the past where the representatives have voted for a third-party candidate altogether. It happened as recent as 2016, but the number of rogue voters weren't enough to flip the election result. Now, such electors are called the faithless ones. Dramatic, I know, but so are the elections, and a few rogue votes can potentially change the game. Interestingly, states have no regulation to bind the electors, but several states have criminal penalties to try and prevent the faithless electors from voting for someone else. Now, the concept of electoral votes has Americans divided over how fair and accurate it is. Many voters feel that a popular mandate nationally should determine who the winner is. But there is history behind how the concept of electoral colleges came to exist. You see, the founding fathers of the United States were divided over the presidential election process. Some favored people's popular vote, others wanted the Congress to vote and choose the president. So they reached a compromise between both. And that gave America the system of Electoral College. Hope this helps simplify the presidential election process for the world's oldest democracy. Stay tuned to WION for more such explainers.